Друзі, привіт! Сьогодні інтерв'ю. Сьогодні ми спілкуємося з Вілом Вайлдом. Сьогодні допомагає мені український харпер з Києва Антон. Hi, Will.
Hi.
Hi. Окей, починаємо тоді з наших запитань. Сподіваємося, вам буде цікаво. Звісно, ми запитали наших відомих харперів, які питання слід поставити Вілу. Також ми підготували свої власні запитання. І перше запитання від Стіва Бейкера. Які гітаристи вплинули на вас у вашій творчості? І ви граєте все на своєму спеціальному цій настройці? І ще хотів запитати, чи граєте ви окремо саме в акустиці?
Question is, we've asked other harpers what questions you should be asked. And we also prepared our own questions. So first question, there are two questions from the Steve Baker. Yeah, maybe you know him. So which guitarists you were influenced by? And second, do you play everything on your special tuning? And the third question from the Constantine, so do you play acoustic or do you play only amplified? So there are the questions.
Okay. So I forgot what the first one was there.
First one was which guitarist you were influenced by.
So a lot of sort of 50s Chicago blues guitar players, you know, Albert King especially, Buddy Guy, Muddy Waters, Elmore James, you know, and then some more blues rock contemporary players, Walter Trout, and the main influence for me has been Ґері Mura. He's a big influence on my playing. With my tuning, I do still play Richter tuning sometimes. I play natural minor tuning a little bit as well. But mostly I played Wilde tuning and Wilde minor. Yeah.
And do you play only amplified or acoustic as well?
No, I mean I play. I never play amplified at home, so I play acoustic here a lot. In my live set and on my albums, I always try and put some acoustic stuff in there. So there's a song on the latest album called Gypsy Woman, which has quite a traditional feel to it. It's got the same chord progression as St. James Infirmary. So for that, I play acoustic, this kind of... Yeah, I like the pure sound of the harmonica as well as the amplified sound. But for a lot of the material that I've released, you know, the last couple of years, it's lent itself more to the amplified sound, you know, and that comes from the Γκері Mura influence. A lot of that, you know, he was primarily a blues player. You know, you could hear a lot of Albert King and Albert Collins. I actually hear a lot of Sonny Boy Williamson phrasing in his guitar playing, but he would play it with more of a rock sound and you know, a very intense, fierce attack, and I think that's what really resonates with me about his playing, and I think that comes across somewhat in my harp playing as well.
Your Parisian, so cool, so cool.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, it's a cool. Maybe watch. It's your Seydel, yes?
Yeah, I play Seydel.
Seydel only.
Only, yeah. I like other brands as well. You know, I'm not too You know, I wouldn't say I only like playing Seydel, but I have only played Seydel now for about 10 to 15 years. They work well for me. I like the way they sound. They're very comfortable to play. They're very loud, and they last longer than brass reeds as well. So as a touring artist who gigs a lot, plays a lot, it's quite important for me to have them last a long time.
А запитай, будь ласка, Антона, має значення для Wilde Tune, чи то Seydel, чи то Hohner, чи то будь-яка інша гармоніка?
For the Wilde tuning, is it important to use Seydel, or is it could be suitable for Hohner, for brass?
It would work. It would work with brass reeds for sure. It's only available through Seydel, because I have an exclusive deal with them. But I think that the Seydel does lend itself well to my tuning, because it's not quite as bright. The steel reeds aren't quite as bright, which I think, you know, when you're getting if you're playing up here a lot, and I tend to play in the upper octave more when I'm using my tuning, you don't want it too bright and too shrill up there. So I think the steel reeds are actually preferable for that.
Okay, thank you very much. My traditional question, what do you think about JDR Trochilus? Maybe you know this instrument.
Oh, JDR. I don't know. I've never played one. I've seen... Are they quite new? I've seen people playing them online lately. But I've never tried one.
Okay,
so I can't comment.
Maybe in future, because slider with amplified very difficult. Наступне запитання від нашого американського друга Карена Аллена. Усім цікаво про ваш стрій. Яким був процес створення власної спеціальної налаштування губної гармоніки? Мається на увазі, який сам процес? І, можливо, Антон, я тоді запитаю відразу запитання від Брендана Пауера, щоб, можливо, поєднати їх. Да? Брендан Пауер питає, він казав, що знає відповідь на це запитання, але б чудово, як би ми її почули. Що надихнуло вас на створення Wilde Tuning? Тобто, що надихнуло і яким був сам процес цього?
Another question from two very well-known harp players, one from Karen Allen. What was the process like of making your own tune harmonica? So what is the exact process, of making how you're doing? And we would like to combine it with the question from Brendan Power. So he said he knows the answer, but it would be really great to hear us. So what is the inspiration behind the Wilde tuning? So what's the process of making, and what was your inspiration?
Yeah. So I suppose the inspiration really began a long time ago, you know, when I was 19 or 20, when I first started playing in bands and touring. I was very lucky to always play alongside very talented guitar players. Like in the early days when I first started touring with my sister Danny, we had Ben Paul on guitar, and then in my band I had Stuart Dixon and Danny Giles and Steve Brook in my rock band Battle of Friday. And so I would be listening to what they were doing, and also listening to what people like Albert King and Buddy Guy were doing, and want to play those kinds of phrases on the harp, you know. So I'd have ideas in my head that I'd want to execute, and some of them were possible to play the right notes, but not possible to play with the expression that I wanted to use, you know. So a good example of that would be if you're playing in second position, yeah, let's say you want to slide up to the octave above the root. So that octave is the 6th blow. It's not bendable, and because it's not bendable, you can't scoop up into it. Stay in the same key. You can't scoop into it like you can on the 2 draw, and you can't add very much vibrato to it like this, because vibrato is the pitch moving up and down, so it needs to be able to bend to get a good vibrato. So I always frustrated me, but pretty much as long as I've been playing harmonica, I would want to add if you take a phrase like that, it's an Albert Collins phrase, it's just not the same if you can't add that expression to the top note. And that always bothered me. So that was always in the back of my mind. I wish I could do that. And then the other thing was the 5, the 5th scale degree, which is the 4 draw, is the 8th draw in the upper octave on Richter tuning. And again, that's not bendable, so you can't scoop into it. You can't bend it down to a flat 5, which is the blue note. It's a very important note in blues. You can't add vibrato to it. And so much of blues expression has to do with the tension and release from the flat 5 to the 5. And it always bothered me that I couldn't do that in the upper octave, because it's just not possible. You can get the flat 5 with a 7 overdraw, but you can't get the same kind of expression with it. And then of course your minor third is missing in the upper octave. You can get it with a 6 overblow, but you can't, you can't add vibrato to it and play with it in the same way as you can down in your 3 draw. So I always knew that I wanted to fix these problems. When I first started playing, I was self-taught, so I didn't actually understand back then why some notes were able to bend and why others weren't. So I couldn't do anything about it at that time. Years later, I learned a bit more about how harmonicas work, and I learned that if the draw reed is higher in pitch than the blow reed in a hole, like it is in holes 1 to 6, then that means that the draw note bends. And if the blow reed is higher than the draw reed, like it is in holes 7 to 10, that means that the blow note's bent. So I started looking at ways of reconfiguring it that might work as like a new tuning for blues. And I experimented with a couple of things. One of them I called 1 2 3 tuning, because it was just like holes 1 2 3 and then holes 1 2 3 again and again and again, just an octave up each time. And that kind of worked, but it wasn't good enough for me, really. There were too many draw notes, and it got confusing because your root note wasn't in hole 6 anymore, and your third wasn't in hole 7, the 5th wasn't in hole 8. And around the time that I was experimenting with these tunings, I saw, this is where Brendan comes in, I saw a video of Brendan's where he explained 2 of his tunings. The power draw, which is the same as Richter from holes 1 to 6, and then holes 7, 8, and 9 are like holes 3, 4, and 2. And the power bender tuning, which holes 1 to 4 are the same as Richter, and then from 5 up it changes. And I messaged Brendan at the time because I was really excited about these two tunings of his that I'd seen him demonstrate in the video, and he very kindly sent me one of each to try out, and I liked them. I took them out on a few gigs and used them on a couple of songs, but they still weren't quite the answer that I'd been looking for. For me, the problem with the power draw was it hadn't solved my issue of the 6 blow. You know, you still couldn't add or vibrato to or scoop that root note there. So that wasn't going to work for me. And then the other one, the power bender, I liked some of the things about that in the upper octave. But for me, just me personally, I didn't like that he changed hole 5. I really like hole 5 as it is, so that you still have all that kind of stuff. You still have the 4 and 5 draw double stop, which is very important for me, and the 4 and 5 trill, and the octaves you have there. So I learned from trying those harps out that I wanted to keep holes 1 to 5 exactly as they are. On the power bender, he had made it so that the root note, instead of being 6 blow, was 6 draw. So you could scoop it and you could add vibrato to it. But his 6 draw on the power bender is only able to bend a semitone. So when you're playing in second position, it bends a semitone to a major 7. Which is great if you want to play a major scale. I know Brendan likes to play a lot of Irish music, which is, you know, a lot of it uses the major scale or the relative minor. So for him, that probably works really well. But for me, coming from a blues background, I needed that note to bend a full tone, you know, so you're scooping up from a flat 7 like you are in hole 2. So it's a little bit different from both the power draw and the power bender around holes 5 and 6. Hole 7, I can't remember what it is in those. I think mine is slightly different in hole 7 as well, because my 7 draw is able to bend a full tone and a half, just like the 3 draw. I think he's only bent a half step. But holes 8 and 9 on my tuning are the same as on both of the Brendan Power tunings. And hole 10 is also the same. And I can't take any credit for hole 10. That was something that I took from Brendan's idea, which is to switch the blow and the draw reed the other way around. So a lot of people think of it as like the whammer jammer bend. You know, 10 blow and bend it down the whole step. I'm playing it there as a blow bend on Richter, which is fine. It works well, but Brendan has switched it round, so now you get it as a draw, and I just thought that felt so much better. I like the way that draw bends feel compared to blow bends, because you're pulling the note into you. It's like you've got the note. Whereas when you're playing blow bends, it kind of feels like the note is getting away from you a little bit. At least to me, it does anyway. So that was what I came up with. I think maybe the first one I made, I used one of either the power draw or the power bender and retuned about 4 of the reeds in it to make it into what this is now. And then once I decided on that, I played around a little bit. I've got a repeat note on my tuning. 5 blow and 6 blow are the same. People ask me about that. The reason why it's the same is, as I said before, I didn't want to change anything in hole 5. But hole 6, I needed the draw note to bend a full tone. So you get a solid flat 7 bend. And in order for that to happen, the blow note in hole 6 has to be set to a major 6th, the same as hole 5. So that's why they're the same. It's not even that I use that particular note that often. It's more about how the draw reed responds with the blow reed being tuned that way. Because a lot of people don't realize both reeds in a diatonic harmonica play a part in a draw bend and in a blow bend, you know.
It's very cool.
So that was it, yeah.
because it's very concretic. When I read first time about this, I think simple answer: play in second octave like a first octave.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. You know, any licks. I mean, I think it's fair to say most blues harmonica players, and I include in this, you know, the greats, you know, Sonny Boy Williamson, Big Walter Horton, Junior Wells, James Cotton. Most harmonica players spend most of their time in holes 1 to 4, 1 to 5, 1 to 6. You know, you hear this kind of these kinds of things all the time. And I really believe that if this tuning had been available then, and Sonny Boy or Big Walter had got hold of it, they would have started doing these same things an octave higher. You know, it's just they weren't able to at that time because they didn't have this available to them.
It's interesting. Антона, запитай, будь ласка, от якщо ти граєш на Ріхтері, ну, наприклад, є така проста дуже річ, як паді Ріхтер, і вона якось, ну, само собою грається, тобто ти швидко звикаєш. А багато часу потрібно, щоб, наприклад, граючи на Ріхтері, у цій другій октаві перелаштуватися, щоб грати на Віла на стройці. Ну, можливо, в нього є ж учні, і, звісно, можливо, є якийсь досвід по цьому питанню.
How much time it takes to get from the Richter tuning to the Will Wilde tuning? Because you know, when you're just taking out of the box harmonica with the Richter, it just plays. It plays a bit of major, of course, but it plays. And for maybe your students, maybe you have some students which used to the Richter tuning, and then they switch to your tuning. And what are their progress and how they used to, and how much time it takes to get used to this?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the individual, of course, but some people have adjusted very quickly. Myself, I adjusted immediately, but then it was my idea. But if you listen to my recording of Lazy by Deep Purple, I recorded that in the studio the day after the first properly manufactured one of these came from Seydel. I was about to record that song for that album, and I'd just started messing around with this tuning at home, with a self-tuned one. And I ordered one in B flat from the Seydel factory, and it arrived, and the next day I recorded Lazy with it, so it didn't take me long to get used to it. I do have some students who, one of them actually exclusively uses my tuning now. He was an interesting student because I think he played guitar or bass before, so he understood about music and music theory, and he started learning harmonica with Richter tuning, and quite quickly realized this doesn't do what I want it to do, and your tuning does. And he just made the leap then, just bought a whole set of 12 and just started learning on those from there on, you know. So I think the reason it's quite, you can adjust to it quite quickly because there's not really anything new there. Like I said, holes 1 to 5 are standard. Holes 6, 7, and 8 are just holes 2, 3, and 4 again. Exactly the same. You know, there's nothing you don't already do down here that you can't just move up there. And then hole 9 is the same as hole 2 again, which is also the same as hole 6. You know, so 6, 7, and 8 is like 2, 3, and 4, but 8 and 9 is also like 1 and 2. The only one that is a bit different to something you've played before is hole 10, which is reversed, you know. So I think what I advise people to do when they're learning this tuning, it doesn't have any numbers written on it here, but I tell them to imagine the numbers as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 2, 10, right? And I've found often when I start tabbing something out for someone on this tuning, I'll automatically write 2, 3, 4 when I mean to write 6, 7, 8, because that's the way I see it in my head. It's just 2, 3, and 4 again, you know. So I have made a free introductory course online for this tuning using the key of A one. So anyone that wants to learn it, I would advise buying an A and taking that course. And then really you start off just using holes 1 to 6. So only hole 6 has changed. And just get used to having that note as 6 draw instead of 6 blow, you know. And just that one change opens up, you know, it's huge. You could just play holes 1 to 6 for the first few weeks and get used to that. And then maybe add in holes 7 and 8 and start adding some of these licks in. And eventually, you know, add in 9 and 10 as well.
I play the guitar.
I do play guitar a little bit, yeah, I'm not
I image like a Crossroads movie. You play in guitar solo and 2 octaves in harmonica, but it's for rack, for holder.
Right. Yeah.
It could be very nice. Okay.
Could be. Yeah.
I mean, it's very cool.
Thanks.
Окей. Так, ну наступне запитання. Так, ну ми про це поговорили, Антон, да? Тобто хочеться мені задати питання про... О, до речі, ну, наша праця, наша робота важлива для початківців. І тому це запитання. Ми знаємо, що ваша перша гармоніка була Гіннес у до мажорі, якимось чином попала до ваших рук. яку, і ви граєте на Зайделі, а все ж таки, яку ви порадите першу гармоніку для початківця? Яка найкраща, щоб почати займатися?
We know that your first harmonica was Guinness in C major. Which models do you prefer now, and which models do you prefer for a beginner starting to use?
So like you said, my first one was a Guinness thing. It had a plastic cone, plastic cover plates. I'm sure it wasn't very airtight, but I didn't know anything about airtightness even being a thing, you know, so I had what I had. And one thing I will say is it never, looking back, it never ever occurred to me as I was learning on crappy cheap harmonicas, not once did I ever think maybe the harp isn't good enough. You know, maybe I can't do this, get that bend because of the harp. And I think that's, looking back, a good attitude to have, because it makes you just work harder on your technique. And the truth is, you can make a really poor, cheap harmonica play. You know, it's not going to sound as good as one of these. It's going to be more difficult to play, especially when you come to play fast. But if you can make a poor harmonica play, when you move on to a really good one like this, everything's just really easy. So I would say don't worry too much if you're just starting out about spending loads of money. You know, don't get something that's rubbish. Like, you know, get a proper brand. Don't get a Guinness one like I did. You know, ideally. But you know, you haven't got to go crazy with it. And then I basically I used to try out a different model of harp every time I needed a new key. So, you know, that the first one I had was a C, and then somebody told me, someone that played harmonica, you know, down the pub, told me you need an A to play blues in E and a D to play blues in A. So I went and got them and played on those two. I think the first one of those I got was the Hohner Blues Harp, just because it's had the word blues on it, you know, and it was okay. I had a big river harp as well, because they were like the cheapest Hohner you could get at the time, and I was only 16 or 17, so I didn't have much money to spend.
Not Silver Star.
And yeah, not a Silver Star. I remember I did have a Hohner GLH that a used one that I found in a drawer somewhere. That was all right, actually. It played okay. And then, yeah, I played Lioskas for a few years. I think just because that's what they had at like the local music shop. And then when I switched to Seydel, I was opening for Charlie Musselwhite when he played at the Brighton Comedia. I don't know, 17 years ago, something like that. And he said to me, he was like, oh, you know, what harps do you play? And I showed him. I had like a mix of Lioskas and Hohners at that time. And he said, have you heard of this company? And he handed me a Seydel card. I still have it to this day, actually. I kept it. And I hadn't heard of them, you know. And he said, I think they just started up again. You know, obviously they're the oldest harmonica factory in the world. But I think they'd only recently like come back into production. I might be wrong about that, but so I tried them out, and I really liked them, and so I called the number on this business card he gave me, and spoke to Seydel in Germany, and managed to get myself an endorsement with them, and since then I've never looked back. You know, they work well for me. They do everything I need them to do. My preferred model is this one, the Seydel 1847 Classic. I have a lot of the 1847 Classic Silver as well, which is the same, just with a white plastic comb. To be quite honest with you, I still don't really know which I prefer between the plastic and the wood comb, so I don't think there can be much in it, because I still can't tell after years of playing both. The way I did it was I got all the, you know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G in the white plastic, because it's like the white keys of the piano, and then I got the flat keys in the wood, like the black keys. But yeah, so I would say just try out a few models, see what you like, you know, and yeah, when you find one that you really like, then just stick with that.
Okay, maybe you have favorite key because of your voice, vocal, yeah?
It depends. I don't really know. I play a lot of different keys in my set, you know. C is quite a good key for my voice, so I use the low F in my tuning.
Right.
I was never a fan of low key harps before I started using this tuning. Mainly just because for the blues rock thing, you know, I think low key harps are great for chugging stuff like that. But if you're playing a blues rock thing with a band and you go to take a solo in that register, it just gets lost in the mix. It doesn't cut through. And because the reeds are very long and heavy, they don't respond as quickly, especially for bends. So I would have used a regular F. But since I started using my tuning, I find the low F's great because all of it is very usable. So, you know, I tend to live more in the sort of middle octave and then go up into the upper octave in the solos. And then you've got the really low notes there if you want them as well. So yeah, I like the low F a lot for my tuning. E is a good key for my voice, so I use the A quite a lot. But to be honest with you, I don't really have a favorite key. I like them all for different reasons. You know, I know a lot of people don't like the standard E and F harps because they're quite high. I always thought they were really cool. You know, I liked it when someone would call a jam in C and I could get the F out because they really, you know, they really cut. And this is actually an E, but so that's all one breath, all on an inhale. But because it's quite high, you don't need to use a lot of air. So that's what I liked about those higher keys is, you know, you don't have to use much air at all. I mean, that's getting really high at the top now, but yeah, I always like the high keys.
Very nice. Антон, також не по плану, але ви у своїх уроках кажете про важливість дихання. Можливо, порадити, яких помилок треба не робити початківцю саме, коли починає. Тому що, чому це важливо від вас? Тому що ви навчалися самі у 16 років. І тобто, звісно, в якому віці краще займатися, але мене цікавить більше, чи важливо дійсно дихання і яких помилок треба не зробити для початківця, від чого зберегтися.
For the beginners, it's important to, and you're saying, and you're talking this about in your lessons, yeah, that breath is important, breathing is important.
Yeah.
So what are the common mistakes that students should avoid to maintain good breath? Because, well, you studied yourself, at a young age, at 16, 17, and maybe you get some of the mistakes, and you would like your students or anyone else to avoid those mistakes in breathing.
Yeah. So I think like the key thing is you want to make sure you're breathing from the diaphragm. So when I say that, some people misinterpret that as in like you should be like really put it, like your stomach should be moving in and out and you're like blasting loads of air using your diaphragm, and that's not what I mean at all. What I mean is really you should be just breathing normally and naturally. It shouldn't ever be forceful, really. So when people say breathe from the diaphragm, it's very easy to overthink that. All breathing is from the diaphragm. That's why we have one. It draws the air into the lungs and pushes it out. But when people say breathe from the diaphragm, what they really mean is don't suck the air with the cheeks. Because when you do that, you get a very poor sound. You get a really thin, nasally tone. The note plays a little bit out of tune. So you always want to make sure your mouth is open inside. When I'm doing this, I'm kind of thinking right, I'm thinking of an sound, because when you go to the doctor and they want to see down your throat, they'll make you say because when your mouth is in the position, I'm gonna see down my throat now, apologies if this is gross. Right, as opposed to keeps the tongue flat and relaxed at the base of your mouth, keeps the back of the throat open, and it keeps the cheeks relaxed, right? So another analogy is if you eat something hot, like if you've got some really hot food in your mouth and you're trying not to burn the sides, or you it's that sensation. These should be relaxed, never in or out like this. So the air is being pulled gently, but it's being pulled from here and not from here, right? And then you want to kind of tune the resonance chamber inside your mouth to the pitch of each note. And that goes for all notes, not just bends. So if I'm playing like a very high note, my mouth is a little more closed than if I'm playing like... Alright, so that's drill 1 on a low E flat. So I'm dropping my jaw a little bit more for that, just to open up. Kind of like, if you think of acoustic instruments that produce low notes, like there's a reason a double bass has a much bigger body than a violin. And it's that same kind of thing. You got to create more space for the sound to resonate in order to get a good tone. I talk a bit about breathing on bends as well, because this is where most beginners really run into problems. So most of my students are able to get a good bend on the one draw. Beginner students are able to get a good bend on the one draw by the end of lesson 1. So that's one draw on a C harp. If there's any beginners watching this, what I'm doing there is I'm starting with a kind of E sound. You could go with the R that I showed before, but for this example, let's go with E. And then as I'm breathing in, I'm changing from an E to an O and trying to lower the pitch of that airstream. Okay, so I'm going to do it through puckered lips. And I notice I'm not doing this. The cheeks aren't involved. Right, so, and I'm not moving my whole face around. So I'm keeping the lips puckered and focusing on changing from E to O, lowering the airstream. And what that's doing, it's automatically putting my tongue in the right position and opening my throat up in the right way to get a bend. Okay, so some beginners will, they're not used to using the muscles in the throat, so they'll try and they'll do this, suck the air in, and that doesn't work, you know. So yeah, keep relaxed, breathe from here. Now most people can get that on hole 1, and then they try and replicate it on hole 2 or 3 or above, and they start, or you know, maybe they can bend it a tiny bit, but it goes really quiet or it chokes off, and that is pure. Well, it's because of one or two things actually. It could be that when they move to hole 2, they're not isolating that hole well enough. So if they've got 2 holes together, you're not going to get a proper bend. Or if you've not got a good seal between your puckered lips and the harp, and air is escaping out the corners, you're not going to get a good bend if you've got air leaking out. But the main reason people struggle to bend hole 2 when they are able to bend hole 1, in my opinion, is that when you're playing hole 1, obviously it's at the end of the harp, so you're not really having to pucker to isolate that single note, right? My mouth is kind of in a default position. It goes over the edge of the comb a little bit. As soon as you move to hole 2, you have to pucker to isolate the hole. And most people are used to breathing naturally from the diaphragm through an open mouth, but nobody walks around, you know, breathing in and out through puckered lips. You know, you might pucker your lips if you're gonna drink through a straw, perhaps. So as soon as they go to the pucker on hole 2, they start breathing incorrectly. And if you do this sucking action, it does bend the pitch a little bit. So people think, oh, it's working, you know, I'm bending it, and they do more of that. And they close up more and more, and it's wrong. So if that's happening, you just have to go back, keep the cheeks relaxed, keep the mouth open inside, lower the pitch of the airstream. So that's my advice on breathing anyway.
Yeah, I just have a question in my mind. So, is it similar to vocal position? So, is it similar to the vocal when you're using your throat to widen your throat to get a bass sound and to make it the resonant, using different resonance in your body?
Perhaps a little bit, yeah. I mean, for vocals, you certainly have to be breathing from the diaphragm to support the sound. And in vocals, you know, vocal coaches talk a lot about resonance and R vowels and the, you know, placement of the resonance by modifying vowel sounds. But the bending thing, I think, is pretty unique to harmonica, really. And that, I think that's why a lot of people struggle with it. And the same with vibrato as well. You know, it's these muscles in the throat being used in a strange way on an inhale that is kind of quite alien to most people.
It's very useful. Thank you very much. Thank you very
No
much.
problem.
And you are a good teacher because of show not right. It's difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have an online course, by the way, for anyone watching this, where I demonstrate all this stuff, and it's made to be very, you know, interactive. I get you to actually experience how these things should feel, and start using them in a musical way over backing tracks and stuff, rather than, as you say, just, you know, write an essay about it, give you a load of information that's abstract. You know, people need to know how this stuff should feel, and you have to try it out and pick the harmonica up and have a go at it. It's no good just listening to someone talk about it, or you know, reading about it, unless you're actually doing it yourself and experiencing it.
Окей, у нас ще є запитання. Запитання від колеги, звісно, від тічера. Я так розумію, що це питання від Сергія Пузанова. Який навик ви вважаєте найбільш важливим для людини, яка хоче грати музику? Саме займатися музикою, яка навичка потрібна?
So, question from one of our teachers. What skill do you think is the most important for someone who wants to play music? Just to play music, not only harmonica, but the music in general.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I would say is tone and vibrato, really, because if you have good tone and vibrato, you can make a good sound. You know, I could put a backing track on and play one note. I mean, on its own, it doesn't sound like much, but you can make music with one note if you're making a good sound, you know. If the sound that you're making doesn't sound nice and doesn't inspire you, that, you know, that you haven't got much to build on, really. And the way I look at it is, if you can't make one note sound good and sound musical and sound like something that people want to listen to, and if people aren't connecting emotionally with the sound of the note, then there's really not much point in moving on and playing more notes, you know. Like, I know I'd rather listen to one note played really well, or, you know, just a handful of notes played really well, which is what a lot of the blues greats did. People like Albert King, for example, or, you know, harmonica players, someone like Snooky Pryor, you know, a lot of the time it wouldn't be a lot of notes or melodically very complicated. But what those guys all had was a good touch, a good sound, good vibrato, good timing and phrasing as well, which helps. But so I'd say first and foremost, learn to make a good sound. And you don't really need to know anything about music theory to do that. You're just using your ears and, you know, connecting with your instrument, trying to get it to sound like a, you know, the same way that a good voice sounds. After that, for someone that wants to play, you know, wants to be a soloist, which is how I see myself, you know, as a harmonica player, just like a lead guitar player or saxophone player, you know, I'm not, for the most part, I'm not like, you know, playing chords or holding down the tune. I'm just soloing and improvising over the top of it. So if you want to do that, then the most important thing you need to learn from a theory point of view is scales, because that's how you do it. You know, it's you learn the scale, and then you use those notes of that scale to make stuff up and express yourself.
Слухайте, мені треба потім уважно передивитися, Антон, може ти підкажеш, у настройці віла, ну, тобто перша октава залишається, це перший акорд, п'ятий акорд, first, да, fifth, а ця настройка, там ще якісь акорди з'являються, ну, тобто у нас є ще у Ріхтері друга ступень мінорний, там ще якісь акорди з'являються?
So in your tuning, is there a so there are chords on the first three, because it's the similar 1, 2, 3 blow, draw.
Yeah, 1 to 5 is the same.
Yeah, and what are the other chords there?
Well, so 6, 7, and 8 is just the same as 2, 3, and 4 again. So you get that major triad. And another octave. Yeah, I don't really tend to play chords at the top there, to be honest.
Yes,
you can get power chords. You know, root and the fifth below it. You get a nice. You get a nice 7 or a fragment of a dominant 7 chord there, which is unique to this tuning. So on Richter, a lot of people use the 2 and 5 draw tongue split, which gives you a root and a flat 7 in second position. You know, you might hear that at the end of a song or something. So you're playing a root and you're playing a flat 7 above, but it's impossible on Richter to play a root with a flat 7 below, because that would require you to play a 2 draw and a 2 draw bend at the same time, or a 6 blow and a 5 draw at the same time, which is obviously impossible. So on mine, you can play the root as 6 draw and then bring that 5 draw in. It gives you this really cool kind of crunchy. So I use that for that crunch sometimes, as well as a sustained chord. You get a nice trill with those 2 notes as well.
Nice. Прикольно. Наступне запитання, і ми вже, Антон, як я казав, можна розповідати про гармоніку годинами. Якщо хтось вперше сьогодні відкрив для себе Вілла Вайлда, я дуже щось у цьому сумніваюся, але ж все ж таки, якщо хтось відкрив для себе Вілла Вайлда, чи можемо ми запросити Вілла зіграти щось, ну таке своє, щось таке, play something cool.
So for something who discovers you for the first time, so could you play something like very Will Wilde style?
Okay. This is John Mayall Blues Breakers thing. I need my band.
Wow.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. І наостанок наше традиційне, навіть не запитання, а прохання. ми у нашій спільноті українських харперів створюємо челенджі, чи може Will, як викладач, порадити якийсь челендж, бажано для початківців, запропонувати. Ми його так і будемо називати, челендж від Вілла Вайлда, і будемо пробувати намагатися його зіграти.
So, and final one. So after each interview, we ask our guests to propose some challenge for our for our harp community here. Yeah.
Right.
And what challenge you would suggest, and we would call it like a Will Wilde challenge. So people could expand their knowledge and they could broaden their technique or anything you would suggest.
Okay. What, like learning a particular song or something like that, or
Maybe. So you name it.
okay. Yeah, let's say The Head from Lazy by Deep Purple, which is a song I've been playing for a while. Very similar actually to Stepping Out that I just played there. Yeah, try learning The Head from that. It's I do have a lesson on it on YouTube as well if you get stuck, but I would say try and learn it by ear first. Basically that, but it's quite a tricky one. Some of the bends in there, there's a lot of draw notes in a row as well, so you gotta
nice
really manage your breath control.
It's simply without backing track, just it's this riff. Okay, very nice. Наостанок, можливо, щось побажаєте українцям та українським харперам. І, звісно, ми дуже дякуємо за приділений час, за відповіді. Це було дуже цікаво.
Yeah, so the last thing, maybe you would like to wish something for the Ukrainian harp community. We thank you so much. Many thanks to you for your work, for your time spent with us. It's priceless. It's very valuable for us. Thank you very much for your
no
time.
problem. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's been fun. Yeah, I'd just say wish you all the best, and keep playing harp, keep playing the blues, and stay strong.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A lot of questions, but
yeah, we have a lots of questions actually.
But thank you very much. It was cool. Bye bye.
I enjoyed it too. So.
Yeah, maybe we would have like another one round of questions if you would like to, if we would have time, maybe.
What, like another time you mean, or now?
Maybe
questions
no,
for our audience.
Yeah, maybe questions from our audience will come up also, and next time, for example, in a week we could have a session 2.
Time,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, if you have free time, because we have lots of questions. I would like to ask you about your connection with the audience and how you engage with the audience and etc. So it's very important. It's very interesting how you, as the blues rock player, how you communicate with the blues audience, with rock audience, and how you mix them together. So discuss this a bit. It would be really very valuable.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Yeah, we can do another session.
That's great.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Bye bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.